All right. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. A good late afternoon to those of you on the West Coast. Welcome to Uncanny X Chronicles, the unofficial X-Men 97 podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator, as well as host of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thank you for joining me on this first of many episodes, breaking down season 2 of X-Men 97. Following the airing of each episode each week, there will be a brief recap of the episode and question that we will be doing for each of these episodes, along with an analysis of those said episodes and some theories of what might be ahead. Additionally, each episode will have a special co-host to help me, break down the episode in terms of its analysis, as well as some theories that they themselves may have. So without further ado, let's get into the recap as these 3 episodes were dropped to debut this sophomore season. So give me one moment. When we last left the children of the Atom, they found themselves broken into 2 teams across time, one in the past and one in the future. However, despite disparate points in the timeline, there was one common factor linking them both: the villainous apocalypse. The past being 3000 BC in ancient Egypt, also being his start, or I should say his rise in power, and the future for the other team also being, 3960 or the 40th century, being his undeniable command of that said power. Meanwhile, the present is in chaos as the world continues to contend with its strained relationship between mutants and humans. So, getting to episode 1, Days of Future Past, provides a setup as mutants, Bishop and Forge, in their collaborative efforts to create a time-traveling device to rescue the X-Men, provide the exposition of which respective portions of the X-Men are where. In the post-apocalyptic future, we have Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Morph, and Storm. In the past, we had Magneto, Charles Xavier, Beast, Rogue, and Nightcrawler. Deciding to split their efforts to ensure their success, Forge goes to the future to rescue the team, as Bishop goes to the past. In reuniting with the team in the future, Forge finds that the team has been assisting Mother UNCANNY and Nathan Summers in their fight against Apocalypse. After helping to dismantle his tyrannical reign in the future, Apocalypse decides to transfer his consciousness to the present, 1997, aka the 90s, which is a funny phrase that we hear, throughout these 3 episodes constantly, which I enjoyed, to ensure that he isn't thwarted by the X-Men, which brings us to episode 2. In this episode, titled A Force to be Reckoned With, the mutant Cable is leading a Black Ops team known as X-Force in its efforts to stop Apocalypse. In its efforts to accomplish this, Cable recruits Jubilee and Sunspot, the remaining members of the X-Men in the present, to his existing team of Archangel and Psylocke to surveil and eliminate the former Horseman and associate of Apocalypse War. Within this episode, we also learn of X-Factor now being a government-sanctioned team. Last but not least, we come to episode 3, which finds our team, or P-Team, should I say, journeying with Insaba Noor and the Sandstormers in their attempt to curb the villainous and extreme, in their attempt to take down the Pharaoh, who we will dive into what his alias is, but on a larger scale, for the X-Men to be able to curb the villainous and extreme tendencies of the mutant who would eventually become Apocalypse. So with that, I want to be able to introduce the guests that we have today. I'm excited to have them on board. I think this might be the first time on these shows that we have of episode breakdowns that I've had him join. So perhaps the first of many, hopefully. But said guest that I have today is a jack of all trades. They're not also a fellow, geek pundit like myself, having Picture Lock as their outlet, but also being the founder of the DC Black Film Festival. It is my pleasure, without further ado, to welcome onto the show Mr. Kevin Sampson. Let me bring him on now. Kevin, what's going on, man?
What's up, Brandon? How are you, man? I appreciate you having me on. I really do, because honestly, like, I don't think I've talked in this type of setting about film, TV, animated series in quite some time. So you're helping me to knock the dust off and get back into it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Fair deal. So, just I'm gonna punt the ball over to you, so to speak. Just tell me just your initial impressions of the episodes, the 3 episodes that we got. I know we were talking about it offline. I was like, oh well, I know we were just going to do the first episode, but they dropped three, so we're going to talk, this 90-minute, meal of episodes, if you will, that we have. So, just initial impressions before we kind of get into the analysis of things.
Yeah, initial impression. First off, man, I think we're of the same age, but
Yes,
as soon as I hear that beat drop
that
on the
theme,
intro,
bro,
bro,
bro.
I am in front of my TV, the floor TV now. We had a floor TV. It was a big one, but it was a floor TV. Saturday morning, eating my cereal, watching X-Men 97. The part that's crazy to me is that the animation, like, that's a part of it, just still feels like I'm in the 90s and watching this show. Now, in terms of just, kind of first initial things, I do feel as though the one thing that is really cool is storyline, the stories it's themselves in each episode is definitely a lot more deeper and a little bit more darker than it was when we were kids watching, Saturday morning cartoons. And I think that that is warranted, and it should be, because I mean, here it is, 2026. So I love that part of it. I enjoy seeing kind of where they're going to go, the different themes that they're stringing together, family, the moral and ethical struggle that has always been a part of the X-Men. So yeah, so far, I mean, I definitely want to see the rest of the season. I wasn't like, oh man, I'm not watching this.
Nah, I hear you. And the second what you were saying is, I'm actually surprised. I mean, if you watch the original show, uh, to your credit of what you were talking about with them not dumbing down or not making the story, I feel like even the original X-Men was kind of sophisticated even for that time
Yeah.
of what it expected of its younger viewers to be able to follow. Um, I'll do a little aside, and then I'll get to get to more of the show. Is the original show, and I've talked about this before, not here but elsewhere in other shows. Is it was a show that I shared in watching with older relatives. Like, I had an aunt, she's passed away last year, but she was the aunt that was into like all the pop culture stuff. She was, she had the nickname of being Comic Con aunt, and like she watched X-Men. Like, even if we didn't watch it together, almost as if it's like a weekly, like, cooler talk type of thing. She would hit me up and call me, "Hey, did you watch X-Men this week?" Or, did you see what happened this week? Or, I missed what happened. Like, don't spoil me. Like, I want to see what happened. Or did such and such, because just like we had with this show, like with the 3 episodes, there was a cliffhanger, and they would have iconically, they would have cliffhangers on that show way back when, and she would hit me up and say, I saw that we left off on a cliffhanger. Did they address such and such and such and such? So, like, to be able to capture the attention of adults as well, um, that was a cool thing. And also made, as a kid, when you were, I mean, gosh, this was what, like, early 90s. So I would have been in like elementary school,
Mm.
7, 8 years old. So, like, it's cool to be able to converse with an adult, and feel like you have like some type of connection, and you feel like, oh yeah, like we both watched this show. Like, it was kind of cool to have that connection. But even with this show, like I was shocked as to how much, and I guess maybe I'm not, because the first season kind of set the tone of how mature they were going to go, and what they were going to have. But like to have, bodies of mutants at Apocalypse's compound, uh to have that. And I don't know if a lot of people caught this, but that moment with Emma Frost, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, where she was about to get down, and like if she didn't run into the X-Men, she was about to get down
Yeah.
in some extracurriculars. Let's put it that way. And I was
Right.
like, wow, they went there. Okay, okay, all right. So like, yeah, and I mean, there were some character moments too that were really cool, that which I've always enjoyed about the X-Men, especially with the series, with the animated series, whether we're talking about this continuation or the original, being able to, despite the larger story, the larger scope of the story, you're still able to have these interpersonal relationships that you're able to show. You're able to have these character moments that you're able to show, even within the larger scope and the larger context of the overall plot of what's going on. It's pretty ambitious that they're able to do it. And then I would also say too, kudos, I feel like even more so than, and I feel like this is the nature of how people um consume their content these days, because they know they don't have the luxury of stretching out the series to like what, 20, 15, 20 episodes. They have to pack a lot of stuff in a lot of, in these few episodes that they have. And somehow, like you would think, considering how much they have to cover, they somehow find a way to get through a lot of story. Like even in the first season, like I was amazed. Like they went through Goblin Queen, they went through all of these things that you would think you would need way more episodes for, but like they somehow were able to segue from this portion of a story arc to another portion of a story arc, and it didn't feel like I was being shorthanded or not provided with enough to kind of chew on. I don't know, maybe you felt differently.
Yeah, no, that was a lot. So I gotta backtrack and then I'll get
Yes,
back to what you
sorry,
said.
yeah, gave you a lot.
Yeah, no, 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 no. First off, my condolences on your aunt. I have heard you speak about her. I think you spoke about her at DCBFF and just how you have that
Probably
bond.
did, yeah,
And
yeah.
so, man, that's so cool that you are able to bond like that. And that's the one thing for cinema, but just storytelling in general. I love how it can bring family together. And what I was going to ask you is because back in the day, if you missed it, you had to have VHS recorded it. This is before
Oh, I
DVR, and
did, I
so
did.
so is that what happened if like she missed it or you missed it? Like somebody provided the VHS and was like, "Hey, this is what you missed."
Yeah, or like we just had to rely on the other to kind of like, recap it for us. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, we take it for granted these days of being able to do what, on demand and all this other stuff, or
Yeah,
just having it in the queue that you can just go back and you have the whole season there. I mean, some shows are still adhering to the way it used to be done, where they get releasing an episode each week, but once it's released, you can still go back and watch everything that's been released up to that point.
right.
So yeah,
It's
like you take that for granted where you had to watch it. And but here's the thing though, I think it was a little easier because, and I'm gonna get kind of nerdy here with when it aired, is it was at the end of the Saturday morning lineup day. Like
right.
I don't know how it was for the rest of you guys out there, but at least here in the nation's capital, when I was watching it on Fox 5 back in the day, like
Fox
it was,
57 for me.
yeah, about to say, like it was at the end of the Saturday morning run, because like you had a couple of shows that used to be givens that I had to watch, and like I'll tell you, I don't know if you were this way. It started at the beginning of the top of break of dawn, because they used to
Mm,
have like Fantastic Four at like 6 a.m. They used to have Iron Man and I don't know if you remember this. Maybe the lineup was different for you, but it was Iron Man and Fantastic Four at like Fantastic Four came on first. I want to say it was like 6 o'clock, 6:30, and then after that you had what is it, Iron Man, and then you started to get into some of the other like Power Rangers kind of shows, and then 9 o'clock you had Spider-Man used to come on, and then
Yeah.
it used to be like some of the live action shows like Goosebumps or something like that came on at 10, and then you got into like X-Men, and I'm gonna go another deep cut on you, WMAC Masters. No one knows about that wrestling kung fu joint that we had. Shout out to the
Yeah.
folks that used to that did that show, because a lot of them actually ironically are stuntmen from Power Rangers and from Mortal Kombat and all these other different things that you probably don't even know that they're a part of. But they had like a wrestling, what is it, a WWF esque type of kung fu show called WMAC Masters. Shout out to them. But um,
Yeah,
yeah,
man. No, it was the same way, same kind of lineup. I think honestly, I think for Saturday morning cartoons, like you said, like it would start early and they would be done at 12. So I think like
yeah,
X-Men would come on at like 11:30.
11. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it
11:30.
was
Yeah,
just that was it. But yeah, no, so okay, we addressed the VHS thing back in the day, because like that's one of the things with my kids. No matter what they're watching, whenever I'm like, hey, turn that off, I'm like, what are you upset about? Like, you can easily just pause it. Like, you can
right.
get right back
We
to it.
don't have that. We didn't have that luxury. Like, what's the big deal?
We did not. If you turned it off, you had to hear about it at school, and that was it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. But okay, so you were talking about yeah, some of the themes. I will say, like, as I was watching it, I did feel like, and we were laughing about how, we watching the first 3 episodes was like a 90-minute movie, but I felt like each episode was a movie in and of itself. And I don't know, we can kind of get into some of this, like some of the storytelling. Like, I think as you absorb it kind of feels like I always go to The Walking Dead because of the fact that there's usually a big action set piece, and then you're gonna have time where the characters are just talking.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that does happen here, right? With
Yeah.
each episode, it's a little bit of the character building. I feel like sometimes when you get into those character building moments, it kind of gets a little bit slow. But I
Okay.
also understand that you're building to an arc of something larger. Um,
Yes.
so I felt like the animation is amazing. The if you can say cinematography of animation, but like the lights, the colors, the shadows, and even it's a 2D plane, but making it look and appear 3D. Like, it's amazing the work that the animators have put in, and the different details, while at the same time giving it that 97 look. I just can't stop talking about that. It's like there's
Yeah.
improvement
The
within it.
aesthetic.
Exactly. And so yeah, I mean, I've been pleased so far. I, I I don't know about you. I'm sorry. I don't know. I want you to lead the show, but
No, you're good.
I
You're
got
good, man. You guess those. Go for it, man.
okay. Jubilee.
Yes.
I think she's always been, I mean, it's like what, fireworks is kind of like her power, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I I just want to get your take, but I thought that her moment fell flat to me. But
Hmm.
because personally, like, we have seen so many times in different movies, all this stuff where people push play on a CD player, a Walkman, whatever. They're listening to the music, then they do something cool. And to me, it was like, I think this is supposed to be her moment, but like it just felt forced. It wasn't. And not only that, I was still kind of like, it would be cool to kind of understand her powers a little bit more. There were some things that happened, like it seemed like it flew like a disc and like knocked somebody out or whatever, but
Yeah.
still, it was just like, I don't think this is hitting the way that like I really wish that it had. I don't know. I want to see your thoughts.
So I think I understand where you're coming from, and I think the reason probably why you feel that way is I feel like there are moments in this series that if you blink, like you'll miss it. And sometimes when you blink and miss it, like you don't get the full breath or the sometimes the context can get past. And don't get me wrong, like this show is quite dense. And I mean there are a couple of times where like I had to rewind. I was like, wait, what? Um so I feel like maybe you feel that way that it wasn't earned because maybe you felt like she wasn't capable of a lot of that stuff in terms of what she could do in terms of having the skill set to take down all of those different attackers. And I know like and it was blink if you miss it, but like in that X-Force intro, they give us a montage of her training with Psylocke and being able to fight like Psylocke. So by watching that, seeing that in the intro, even though it's a blink and you miss it moment, I feel like they use it as a context to show that time has progressed, past that time that we have that intro of her being with X Force for maybe a couple of months versus maybe like, from the point prior to that intro to now, like she just joined, this is like day two. I feel like she's been with them for maybe a couple of months at that point, if they're showing that montage in the intro. So once we get to that point of her having that fight and them also having that discussion of, oh, she can take care of herself, that I'm like, okay, all right, I see what you did there. You placed that in the intro. So that way, when we get to this point, it doesn't seem out of the ordinary that she can handle herself in a fight, that she can take on these attackers, multiple attackers all at once in a fight because of what you have, the way you have approached visually what has transpired over time with her being with this team. So that in that context, like it didn't seem too forced to me because I was like, okay, she's been training with Psylocke, based off of what they've shown here. I gather she's been with the team for a while, so I was into it. I enjoy her being able to kind of show off what she can do because I feel like a lot of times she gets the short end of the stick when it
For
comes
sure.
to what she's capable of. She's always like a victim or has to be saved or like and I appreciate when they switch it up with characters and show like no like they're able to kind of hold their own. Manu, she still needed assistance from the team, to get all the other younger mutants out, but she still played a pivotal role in that rescue, to get them released and to kind of coordinate with her other team members to have them get to had that rendezvous happen with the rest of the team members for them to ultimately be saved. So that's where I stand with it.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you on the hand-to-hand combat part. That was cool. You could see that evolution. But I don't know. I still feel like, like when back in the day when I go to the arcade and they had an X-Men game, like ain't nobody picking Jubilee. Like it's just the I don't know, her power, all that kind of stuff. It just isn't there. Now, she's always kind of been depicted as like this bubblegum chewing skating cheer or teenager.
Yeah.
And so I do think that there was a certain, as you're talking about, like there's a level of maturity that we can now see within her. So for that, I appreciate. I just felt like overall the moment, seeing it before, and even in the X-Men movies, like literally when what's his face like saved everybody as the house was blowing up, right?
Yeah. Quicksilver.
Yeah, Quicksilver. Thank you. Now I will say I don't claim to be like some super comic book nerdy person where I know like the backstory of everybody. So we'll say I'll say that. But let me tell you one person that I have learned to appreciate over this new series,
Yeah.
Cyclops.
Okay. Yeah.
Cyclops to me back in the day, he was whack, right? So like it's kind of like in the
Yeah. It
Ninja
was real
Turtles,
whiny. Always like whining.
right?
Like, what are you guys doing? Or I don't agree with that. Or I mean, I feel like the only time where he was actually halfway like cool was in the arcs that they had with Mr. Sinister or when they were fighting the Shi'ar Empire. Like those were solid episodes with Cyclops, but outside of that, no, I agree with you.
Yeah, and so now I think that so like going to Turtles, like Leonardo is supposed to be the leader, right? And it's kind
Yeah,
of the leader always, it's the same deal where
yeah,
it's like I'm
thankless.
right,
Yeah,
I'm supposed to be the leader. You should follow me, right? But like I
I'm the
feel like
straight and narrow. Like,
Exactly, but
yeah,
this Cyclops is actually like, "Follow me because I put my money where my mouth is." You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
and everybody knows, like, especially in like nerd corners. To me, my X-Men, like, everybody knows, like, that's the phrase.
mhm,
Homie just like using his optic blast to get down to the ground was absolutely incredible. So as this has gone on, like there's something about him that like I think what they're, and this is it, it's kind of like Superman, right? Like in Superman and Lois in the TV show, what made Superman interesting is because in that TV show he's a father. So it's that vulnerability. So with Cyclops now, obviously, I think even with this, obviously him and Jean Grey being a father, Cable, all that good stuff, so there's this vulnerable side to him instead of just this hard nose, like I am the leader, follow the leader type thing. But then there's also like I'm tactical, I'm smart, I know when to make moves, when not to. And so there's this trust there that you can even see amongst the X-Men where they're following him. And so I just love this depiction of Cyclops in a way that yeah, I would have played him on the video game, but now he's like, I'm like, okay, maybe I need to get some Cyclops paraphernalia.
I mean, hey, like, I'm gonna go deep cut with you when we're talking about fighting games. Like, he was it, like on Marvel versus Capcom. Like, when it was Marvel versus Capcom or X Men versus Street Fighter, like, you want to have characters that have a kind of a balanced fighting system, and his super was brutal. Like, it could get a lot of health off of your opponent's bar. So like, he
Yeah,
was my guy. Like, between him, between Storm, it didn't matter wherever someone was to try to get off the board. If you were doing a super with like Cyclops or Storm or Spider-Man, you still got the brunt of the super. It was really hard to be able to avoid the supers that they did because they did it all over the board.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
um, but I want to be able to get into real quick into the analysis with like some thoughts on what they went into. I know you were talking about some of the themes, and one thing that comes to mind when we're talking about this show or these 3 episodes that we got is that idea of, can you truly change someone's fate or destiny? Um, we have components of that with Summers, with Nathan, and with Apocalypse. Of, Nathan, will he truly be able to become the Cable that we know? And then also with Apocalypse, can we kind of curb those villainous tendencies, and could he, as Magneto said, be the first X-Man versus being the Apocalypse that we've come to know in the present and then going into the future? So, what are your thoughts on that? Because they kind of play with that a lot of what if, Nathan never became, Cable? Is he really destined to become this character? Or even with Apocalypse, could he, become good? Like, because we had a moment there where, even in kind of being mentored by Magneto, where he managed to not kill Logos, General Logos, at least initially.
yeah.
Spoiler alert, by the end of it, it was a no-go, but at least initially he was able to kind of curb that initial instinct. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think this is part of what I wanted to talk to you about, right? So,
Okay.
and apologies if there's noise that you hear,
I
the
don't hear
World
anything.
Cup.
You're good. You're all
Okay,
good.
cool, cool. World Cup is happening in our house, and I know Argentina is playing. Um,
You're good.
so X-Men really kind of, we know, like kind of started out, and it's like the Malcolm versus Martin mentality of Professor X versus Magneto. What's very interesting in X-Men 97 is kind of seeing those archetypes um with a little bit of, I, I don't know if I want to say maturity or seasoning, but from what they went through with Genosha and all that kind of stuff. So I say that to land on watching Magnus, aka Magneto, talking to Apocalypse, and really, as I was watching, I was like, man, he sounds a lot like Professor X right now. Like, what's
Right.
like, what is this?
Right.
However, at the same time, as I listened to what he was saying and I really looked at it, I was like, wait a second, nah, this is still Magneto.
Yeah, he's still trying to mold him to be like him.
He not only is he trying to mold him to be like him, he's still trying to put mutants in that upper echelon, right?
Yeah.
He's just like, hey, if we can do this earlier. So it's interesting, kind of I don't know, the Jedi mind tricks that Magneto is playing with Professor X, Charles. And so like that question, and I think that is where the season is headed, right? Like, can we truly change our destiny, or can we change our fate? And I like how they're kind of tackling that, where we don't really know, like, are they going to mess with time and there's going to be ripple effects that are felt in the 90s, or I think they're in like 3690 or something like that. So like, how is this going to play out? But ultimately, this is like an age old question, right? Like, nature versus nurture. Do we have to become a monster, or could we use the talent that we have for good? So I really do like how they're wrestling with it. And again, even though like at first I was kind of, I don't know if you watch Cobra Kai. I probably I didn't hear you on that.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but yeah.
Okay. So the one thing that I hate is like Daniel LaRusso, like the original Karate Kid, he always has this like staunch, we gotta do honor Mr. Miyagi. Like, it's so like disgusting. Like, I hate it, right? And so that's one of the things that I worry sometimes. Is that gonna happen with Charles versus Magnus? Like, that when you have the archetypes, but there's something about the writing that allows both ideologies to come to the forefront, but it's also the gray area, and I think there's a little bit of bending going on. So it's the equivalent of why Killmonger is actually a really good villain, because what he's saying actually kind of makes sense, right?
It's his
um
way of executing it. That's the problem.
exactly. But what you're saying totally makes sense. And so I think that rather than having it where it's like you're my way or the hot, it's like this binary black and white type thing. There's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of gray area. And that's what makes it fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. And I mean, you kind of tease this. I want to, dive, segue into that a bit more. Is that idea of, does the ends justify the means? We have examples of that where characters are able to rationalize things that they're doing based on what they feel the end result will be. I mean, we have an example of that with Cable, with what he does to War, Apocalypse, and what he eventually does to Logos. So, what are your thoughts on that? Because it feels like we're having kind of an analysis of uh the two sides of the same coin, not with Nathan Summers per se, but with Cable and how he goes about things, and Apocalypse. And is there really an approach or an end that's better? Because I mean, if you're going to have that mentality, that extremist mentality, black ops mentality that you had with X Factor, are you truly better than Apocalypse, honestly, in terms of how you go about things and how you execute things to um, achieve your ends? So what are your
Yeah,
thoughts?
yeah, that's a good point. As you were talking, one of the things that I kind of started thinking about was how are we doing this? Is spoilers or
Yeah, we can do spoilers, man. You good?
okay.
You good?
So and this isn't a big like thing or whatever, but the fact that Cyclops and Jean Grey decided to tell Lil Nathan like we're your parents, right? So the build up to that, even in season one, like they were no, we can't do that. We and so they give him the opportunity to know like, hey, we're your parents, rather than hiding it from them.
Right.
And so to me, why did they do that? Right. One, they loved him. And two, I feel like there's a certain amount of you only got one chance to do this, right? And so with that, like we want to give you all the cards on the table, and then from there, you make your decision as to what you want to do, right? And so I think that that was an interesting juxtaposition with Apocalypse because Magneto was really trying to play mentor, but he was playing mentor at his own bend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so instead of putting all the cards on the table, he was playing his own end game. And then we see what happened with that, right? So there was this moment where it felt like Apocalypse might like homie might like he's like, okay, cool, like you can deal with this dude, da 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 da. But then once he was like, you lied to me, and we're you're one of me, like we're one of the same. Now he goes like a little further to the right. And so I think that again is part of the beauty of the different stories, the different movies that we got to see within this. And hopefully I'm answering your question, but I feel like on one hand we see what happens when you kind of tighten the reins versus when you let go, right? And I think that happens like as a dad and father, like I could be extremely tight on my kids, but then they're gonna buck, right? I can be extremely loose, and then they need direction.
Yeah.
But if you
That
help
healthy balance. Yeah.
exactly, and I think
Yeah.
that's what we saw with the Nathan storyline. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question. I find it interesting because I think the truth is like no one can truly answer that question. But we're seeing how the question can be influenced, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, so let's get into some theories here. One thing that has been that they seem to be getting at, based off of what we've seen, is there's this MacGuffin, if you will, that we have in present day that Apocalypse has cooking up. Um, from how we know Apocalypse, how he operates, are we in agreement that that is Gambit?
It's
His
interesting that you said that.
horseman, Gambit as his horseman.
I definitely think that that is where we might be headed. I do think we're gonna see Gambit come back. It's kind of lining up for that Horseman of Death storyline.
Yes.
So I don't think it's a matter of will he return. I think it's who's gonna save him. And I think he might be. I think he might be right. But we'll see. We'll see.
Okay. And then here's the added question to that. If it is in fact Gambit, we have to have four horsemen. So who are going to be the other three? Because if they're hyping up Gambit as one of them, we have to have three others to be a part of that team. Who are they? Because I mean, most people could have theorized that it would have been Wolverine, right? But he's already with the X-Men. He's not like, missing. We thought that, he would turn up missing, in this season, but come to find out he's with the quote unquote future team that, the team that ended up going to the future. So uh who are they gonna, who's gonna be a part of that roster with Gambit?
Yeah, that is the question. I mean, we saw Archangel appear.
Yeah.
Um Gambit, Banshee, maybe.
Okay.
That could be that could be a sleeper pick, like um but outside of that, like you're right. I mean, Wolverine is there. I I don't know, man.
Unless he gets snatched up again somehow. Like I said, they managed to get through a lot of story in the episodes that they had. Maybe he gets snatched up again and he ends up getting, turned into a horseman. I don't know.
And that's the
But
thing. Like, I mean, they kind of have him like definitely in this. He's more of that animalistic Wolverine.
yeah.
So it's quite possible. Um, I don't know. I mean, shoot, I could throw Magneto in there for a surprise twist. Because
True.
his mentality kind of aligns with Apocalypse and all that good stuff. So yeah,
True. True. And here's another thought, and let me know what you think about this. This is a theory that I have based off of what they've done. Since we're dealing with a kind of back to the future esque rules with what they're doing with this, that you can go in the past and change things. It's not the I call it the MCU rules, where like even if you go in the past, it's just creating a branch, a different timeline that change was made, but it doesn't change the current one that you're in. What do we think about how how things were left? Because let's remember, episode 3 was called Age of Apocalypse Part 1, right?
right,
That they have what their whatever changes they made in that past with, and whatever interaction that happens with what is it with because like I said, they have they have a lot of Easter eggs in this, that if you're not in tune with the things that are going on, that you have characters that have these whole other backstories and things that they're up to with with the Pharaoh with
Ramatut.
yeah, but that's it's not it's he's what is it King the Conqueror. A lot of people
Yeah,
forget that. So like, what if Kang, that what transpires with Kang with that weapon, he does survive, and the only way, because remember they need the celestial technology, right, to be able to get back home.
right.
The only way that they're going to be able to get back home, either one or two things has to happen. Either A, they're going to have to team up with Ramatut to defeat Apocalypse in
Hmm.
order to get back home, or they're going to actually have to allow Apocalypse to become Apocalypse for them to get back home. Like, he's going to have to become the Apocalypse that we know to actually get access to the celestial technology and to become the Apocalypse that we know. And that's the only way they're able to get back home, ironically, is for him to actually become that character.
Yeah, yeah. I, I like the latter, the second
Yeah.
theory.
I mean, I do too, but I'm just
Um,
trying.
I could see that happening, and again, you and I, we watch film, TV, all that kind of stuff, so we know story, and
Yeah.
that the reason that it kind of works is because, as you said, it's kind of this back to the future thing where sometimes, and to go back to your prior question, you just can't escape like
Your
the
fate.
destiny. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
this is what it
it,
is.
and so I
Even them going back in time is actually a part of the timeline. Like,
right.
just like they were kind of teasing with Nathan Summers, even though they're kind of messing with time, it's always was supposed to happen that way. Just the same thing that we had with Terminator with Kyle Reese. Like, he
Right.
was always supposed to go back in time. He was always supposed to go back and have John with Sarah Connor. Like,
Yeah.
you couldn't get away from it. So
Correct. So I mean, what I think I'm picking up what you're putting down. I think that's accurate. And like, honestly, like at the end of episode 3,
So they
it's
create the actual villain that they've been
yeah,
fighting. Like, they create the one person that they've been trying to defeat this whole
e-
time.
exactly. It's like, and not only that, I think he probably wouldn't have been as big had they not tampered with it.
Interfered.
Yeah, because I mean, otherwise it was just survival of the fittest, but it didn't
Yeah.
seem like, it was gonna be that big. But once
And if he
that what
came in guns a blazing with the Pharaoh, like they were saying, he might not have survived it
yeah, exactly.
versus them
Exactly.
stopping. So
Yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I'm interested to see where this heads and how they decide to do it. I think the one thing about Marvel now, and obviously like the animated series is not canon to the MCU and all that stuff, but ever since we've been introduced to timelines, man, they can make whatever they want to happen happen. You know what I mean? Like, oops, we messed up here. We're just gonna go back and fix this or whatever.
that's
So
why I hate it. Well, which is why I'm glad
right,
it's like a quick fix of oh well, this is a multiverse version of this character, so that's why they're back. Or oh, they're this is a decision that they made from, so that's why they survive. It's not the one that died. Like it still counts because we can have our cake and eat it too. Like no, like they're dead, they're dead. So
right.
um,
Bring back if they die, they die. Right. Rocky Four to quote Drago: "If he dies, he dies."
Right, right. So, with that in mind, if we were to give, our verdict with, the number of X's, if you will, you have five X's being like a perfect episode, and then like we're making our way down the line, four being good, three being average, two being not great, and one being horrible. Where are you at?
Yeah, I give this a solid 4 out of 5. I really I feel like episode 1 and 2 kind of dragged a bit, but episode 3 it was up to the races, and obviously that's a part 1 of 2. But I feel like part or episode 3 really kind of got its footing for what we're gonna see this season. So 4 out of 5, it's solid.
Okay. All right. Bet. So, for me, I'm gonna give it slightly better. I'm gonna give it 4.5. It was a terrific start to the second season. There were tons of Easter eggs if you knew where to look. Like I said, I mean, I just named one of them with King the Conqueror, someone who's not like really privy to getting into the weeds of some of the characters. I mean, you have King the Conqueror. You have there was a you have Mother Ascani. A lot of people don't know this, but it's Rachel Summers. How timey wimey that gets with her being the daughter of Cyclops and Jean Grey. Like, but that was cool. Um, Even like the interpersonal relationships, like there were things that were established in the first season of X-Men 97 that they continued, and it would have been very easy for them with everything that they track work that they had to hit this season, even in these initial episodes, to ignore what they established in the first season, and they didn't. I mean, the fact that Forge decided to go to the future because Storm was in the future. um I went back and watched the episodes twice. I didn't catch that the first time. I just thought, because he's, technologically inclined, it made more sense for him to go in the future. But the big part of it was the fact that Storm was there, and of course they had that relationship that was established in season one. So that was great. Like we were talking about the relationship of what is it, Scott Summers, Jean Grey, and Nathan Summers, of establishing their relationship, and them revealing their identities to him, and ultimately helping him become the Cable that we do know. Maybe he wouldn't have become Cable if they did not reveal their identity to him, because he wouldn't have had, excuse me, the strength to be able to really dive deep into his abilities, which ultimately helped him, become the Cable that we all know and love. Um, and then also, there were some good character moments. As I said, like I had a chance to watch to do two viewings of the three episodes, and there were some things that I caught initially. Like I said, that thought moment with Emma Frost, I did catch initially, but we did have, and I don't know if you caught this, but like in one of the fights, like Wolverine, because he has bone claws, he broke one of his bone claws in the fight. And I was like, oh, I didn't, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cable, picking up the massive gun, I caught that the first time. And then like I said, with it being unapologetically dark, and I appreciated that they're being that sophisticated and not, dumbing it down for those who would be watching the show. Even though I feel like these days now, with them ultimately calling it 97, they kind of have an understanding that most of their viewers are going to be, adults, because they were kids then. But I mean, with it being on Disney Plus, you're still going to have kids that are watching it, even if kids are watching it, in our generation's case, probably with our kids. So,
Yeah.
all of that stuff is great. I think the only issue that I had, there were some moments in terms of the animation where it was hard to follow with some of the action sequences, where it felt like it was going way too fast, and I was like, okay, what just happened? What did this character just do? And I had to rewind it, and I was like, oh, okay, I got it. There was a minor moment, two moments where that was the case. And then also, ultimately, I know, while it is cool to have Mother Ascani in that episode, being in the future, knowing who Mother Ascani is and knowing what she's capable of and what she's shown that she can do, it was hard to accept that she could have just resolved the issue, and the X-Men didn't have to come to the future. Like, I understand them coming to the past. I get that. You could have sent all the X-Men to the past, but did I, and I keep thinking on it. I'm like, okay, I understand that Nathan needed to have the interaction with his parents to ultimately become Cable, but like a lot of the stuff that they had to deal with or go through, she could have ultimately handled herself. So maybe, if we're getting into the weeds of her being selfless and getting into kind of the larger kind of Yoda-esque type of mindset, where even though Yoda is very capable and he can kind of, if you really think about it, resolve a lot of the issues that are happening in the galaxy when we're talking about Star Wars, he ultimately doesn't, because he's more peaceful and would rather mentor someone to do that. So I'm trying to make peace with that part of it, but knowing what she can do, I'm like, you pulled them all the two different groups and separated them into two different timelines. You lifted this entire vessel by yourself, and you can do all this, like, crazy things with time, with telekinesis, with telepathy. And I'm like, you couldn't have resolved all of this by yourself. But I'm like, okay, I just have to make peace that this is what the story is, and that she ultimately pulled back from doing what she was capable of doing to allow certain characters to become who they needed to become. So,
And that's it. You ended on the note is that, just like Doctor Strange pointing that one finger up, right? Like, he's seeing all of this stuff. Like, you could say it, or you could allow people to. It's like with my kids when they were young, right? Like, I can see the glass of orange juice is gonna get knocked over. Now I can move it myself, and then it doesn't get knocked over, or I could allow them to knock it over, and then they
and learn
learn.
from it.
Exactly. So we'll see where things go, but obviously, like, as she's becoming the biggest mentor to her half brother, right? Like, I think some of this stuff has to play out, and probably in her wisdom, she recognizes that, because she did even have a moment, right, where wasn't she upside down and on
Yeah,
fire,
I was
and
like,
like,
bro, yeah, because of the Phoenix Force. She is a host of the Phoenix Force currently. I'm like, bro,
yeah.
it's a Phoenix. Like, how are you not resolving this already?
So
Like,
I mean, that's all I can think,
yeah,
because here's the deal too, and when we think about it as like a movie or a TV show, if she did resolve everything, there would be no story, right?
it wouldn't.
So, you kind of have to let things play out a little bit.
Yeah, and I have to accept, like, this is the story of what it is, because I get into that sometimes, even with as much as I've enjoyed the early 2000 X-Men movies. When you really get down to it, you have a character who can get into the minds of other people and can resolve the issue, the
Mhm.
conflict in a matter of seconds. And if you notice in every single one of those movies, they somehow disable him somehow so that way he cannot resolve the problem immediately. In the
Right.
first movie, he gets disabled with Cerebro, with the what happened with what they did with Cerebro. The second movie, he's abducted, and you have Mesmero. So like, and the third movie, he's not even in the picture. So like, he doesn't even last that long. So it, it's just interesting in terms of story how things are orchestrated to ensure that you're getting to a certain endpoint.
Yep. 100%.
But with that, we're gonna wrap up the show. Kevin, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you having you on to talk about these first three episodes of this sophomore season of X-Men '97. Before I let you go, can you tell folks where they can find you?
Yeah, everything is at Picture Lock Show on social media. www.picturelockshow.com for my reviews. Again, please follow, give a like. I'm getting back into the game. But Brandon, thank you so much for having me on, man. It's been fun to talk about this. I look forward to seeing how season 2 plays out. So we'll see.
For
We'll see
sure.
if your theories come to light.
For sure, man. And again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Choi ENT on X, and then Brandon Choi _ ENT, which you see down below on Instagram. Um, just know that we also will be doing a live watch of House of the Dragon. That will be happening tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then I'm trying to think. We do have San Diego Comic Con coming up in a couple of weeks, so we should have some stuff dropping for that pretty soon. But yeah, even with this show, appreciate you guys, so much for watching. Be safe out there, guys, and see y'all soon. Peace.